Hey, welcome.
Hey,
Thriving Life. Jeannie and Jennifer. Here we are.
what's
What's up?
And now, The Thriving Life with Jennifer and Jeannie.
Or that. So, have you ever had this feeling like doesn't matter what you do, there's like an argument brewing between two, or there's just someone just bugs you. It's like your ego just gets triggered and your eye twitches. It's like it doesn't matter what they do. You're just like twitchy McTwitch face.
Jeannie, your eye is twitching.
I know it is.
So, oh, you do that much better than I do. So egos are a funny thing. They're kind of like they're kind of like this part of you that protects you from getting hurt again. They have a very nice job, but the thing is they kind of make you vigilant for everyone who's going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And then your reticular activating device at the base of your brain, okay, actually becomes vigilant for all the things that could hurt you or make you wrong or judge you or make you sad or make you scared. And then you see it everywhere and it's like, I don't know what is wrong with this world. You know, all men are dickheads. That's a one that I hear from women a lot, right? And it's like, wow, your ego because you've been hurt. It's just an interesting thing that happens. And it happens a lot. And it's never an issue. Jeannie, jump in on this because it's never, ever is the issue the other person. Ever.
Never.
Ever. Now, there may be issues with the other person you need to talk to them about, but that trigger, that ego, like, grr, that thing is your trigger. That's your healing that has to happen because the fact that you have a resonance with the way that person is being in a way that makes you want to run away or argue with them or whatever it is, that's your work. That's not their work. That's yours because they won't even hear you until you get to neutrality and back to your heart anyways. So it is when you're like aggravated, irritated, all those things, the work is yours. It's not theirs. So I'm just saying. And Gina and I and TWA, after working 300 years together in this company,
3,000, correction, 3,000.
3,000 years. I know we look good, don't we? For three, yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. But yeah, not that our egos have ever come up,
Never.
but yeah, occasionally. Yeah, and we could tell. We could, after you work with someone so closely for so long and you do very intimate programs together, you start to know each other. It's like a marriage, right? And Adam and I are the same way. It's like you start to get what's up? Like what oh, okay, this is triggering that. Isn't it interesting how we pussyfoot around people too? This is another one. We pussyfoot around people that are in their egos, or it's just an interesting thing. Anyways, egos. Jeannie, um, you know, what's the deal for you around your ego or other people's egos? What do you do when it comes up?
Mm. I think for me it's just definitely awareness, right? Because it's a trigger. I feel it in my body. I could feel myself getting really irritated. I could feel myself actually feeling defensive or needing to defend myself, or also sometimes needing approval or needing to prove something. That's when I know I'm in my ego. And um, when that happens, it's like I need to take a step back. And sometimes it doesn't work because my ego loves to be so self important. It needs to prove that it's right, that everything or everybody is wrong. And But I
Yep. Yep.
recognize after so many years of being immersed in this heart work, it's like recognizing it's never about me, and it's never about them. But when I say it's not about me, it's not never about the things that my mind or my ego likes to make up, but there definitely is like, where's the magnetics around this for me, right? And I also know it's like I have no idea what that person is going through. And what is it about me that is feeling uneasy about this, right?
Right. If our own, and as it says below, please make sure you subscribe and like the program and share it with people. If you know that this ego conversation is going to help someone, make sure you subscribe and like and pass it on. Share, for goodness sakes. My goodness, share the love. So, but Jeannie, the whole thing around, I watched something yesterday that was so good. It was around Jeannie, where'd you go? Um, it was around, it was this dude who was talking about women who analyze, like he was talking about relationships. He was talking about women who try to understand what they did wrong, that it triggered someone else's ego. And that can become an addiction. Like, if someone else is triggered, that's their ego. Now your ego is making it about you.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, nobody's going to get anywhere in that scenario because you start kind of being a walking apology. What did I do wrong? Instead of having, there's still a real conversation that has to happen. Right? There's a real conversation about feelings that still has to happen. Of course, you got to do your work to get back to neutrality. The other thing this dude said, which I really appreciated, he said, it was more around having an identity in the world of spirituality where you become so adept at analyzing what's going on that you actually never have the real conversation about the real feelings, because you're supposed to be happy all the time and you're so freaking enlightened that the substitute for having a real conversation is to be so enlightened that you can just explain what happened instead of actually having the real conversation with the other person, because it's a dance between you and them. Isn't that interesting?
So fascinating.
Don't you see that happening to people too?
Mm-hmm.
Where the
Totally.
analysis almost supersedes the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've done that for sure.
It was interesting because I know that it was last weekend. It was a beautiful weekend, and I had mentioned to my hubby that I really want to put up the Christmas lights because it's going to be snowing in the next couple of weeks, and my day ended up being really busy. Like I
Yeah.
was out, I was visiting my parents, I was out with my other son, and when I got back, he had not done anything. So I could feel my ego totally getting triggered. And my ego made it about that, you know, you would never do what I tell you to do or whatever. But when I went underneath that, I'm like, okay, so what's triggering me about this?
Yeah.
And then I recognize it was because I didn't really communicate that, you don't have to wait for me. Because when I actually asked him, he said, oh, I thought you wanted to do it together.
Uh-huh.
And then, and here I am. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't have that clear communication. But then when I sort of went underneath, okay, so what's underneath that even? And I recognized that it was my ego engaged and triggered that I have to figure everything out myself, that I have to do everything myself, and that I cannot be contributed to. I have to have it all handled.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was really interesting. And then it was just having that vulnerable conversation of, I get my part in this, and I am so sorry I didn't communicate it, more clearer. And it's not really a big deal, to be honest, right? It's just lights. Like we didn't get it all, we didn't put it up last year because it was just too cold. We did it too late, and it was still perfect. So Yeah, that was interesting. Ego is just so sneaky.
It is insidious. I find also with Adam that um, that often, much like you, I assume. Well, actually, I don't know if this is like you, but I assume because we've been together so long that he just knows. But
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
between I would say there's a girl thing where we actually do just know without saying as many words. Oftentimes.
Yeah, that's true.
Women just have that with each other a little bit more than they have it with men because men just have a different way of thinking.
Hmm.
And I find myself also assuming that he just knows. And then what happens is he gets triggered because all he wants to do is make me happy. He just wants to do the thing that makes me happy. So if if I just assume, then he doesn't have a chance to make me happy. And then, it's like makes him upset that he didn't get to make me happy. And PS, that would be his trigger. But on my side, it's like, why didn't he see that? And that's the part that's about the communication and not. So for me, it's not so much about the communication, it's forgetting. I grew up with all girls. It's forgetting that he's not a girl. Like forgetting that he he is not a girl. He has a different brain, right? So so there is this thing between men and women often that's like the different ways of communicating too. And so that's an interesting thing too. As far as I would say that we both have developed some serious mastery around working with people's egos over the course of the years of the 13 years, Jeannie, 13 years of doing our year-long program, Flight School. Because that program is meant to stir the pot so that the things come up that get transcended and transmuted, the egoic paradigms that take us out of our flow. And there are tools that we use. There are ways that we be with people that mostly I would say we're so in love with who they really are when they're in those programs that everyone knows that it's safe for their ego to come up and that we're really good at asking the questions that are going to help them come out of it, even if their ego is screaming about us personally. It just is not personal. Whenever someone's ego comes up, that's another thing. There's some kind of strange alchemical witchiness about just not taking someone's ego personally. What do you notice in those conversations, Jeannie? Because it pertains to family, it pertains to kids, pertains to marriages. So what do you see?
I think the most important and the most powerful tool for myself is just seeing that somebody's ego is just like a colorful behavior, right? And I love what you had shared many times way back in the days. Like, it's just, Charlie Brown's teacher, right? Or it's like a barking dog because the ego wants to be seen. The ego wants to be heard. The ego wants to have the power. The ego wants to control.
And it's like, listen to me.
Watch me. Look at me.
Look at me and agree with me. I'm going to keep going until you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So, which leads to one of the greatest things is to actually let it be heard, right?
Exactly. And that's what I see how powerful it is with the kids, for instance, when they're 20, turning 21 in January and growing up, when they were in their hormonal stage, it's like their egos wanted to be right, that everything was wrong. Not all the time, but like all kids, they have tantrums. They're feeling frustrated. They're feeling, incredibly overstimulated, and all they want to do, it's like misery loves company. They want attention. Their ego wants attention. But the moment, when they're screaming or yelling at each other, or they're even when they're screaming at us, it's like the powerful tool that I had found that always seems to work is making oops, I'm so sorry, making the ego right.
Yeah.
We're going to need to take a break there for Jeannie to answer her phone. Because clearly,
I
her
put
ego
it
is
on.
more important than the show.
Wait, I think my ego is triggered that
I
Jeannie
put it
didn't
on do
silence.
not disturb. But look, it's 11:11.
Ah, that's why. See?
Look at that.
Look at that.
Divine nudges. But for me, when the boys are telling me that, their ego is trying to share how everything is wrong, it's like, you know what? You're right. I hear you. It totally sucks.
Mhm.
And the moment I acknowledge their ego, it's like the ego can't say anything because it's just been, it's been made right that things are wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And all of a sudden I could feel, their emotions sort of relaxing a little bit. And I do that to myself. When I feel myself trigger, I'm like, you know what, ego, you're right. I could totally mess this up and I'm still going to move forward and all is well. And I could feel the silence of the ego because I've made it right. And the ego gets more intense when you're fueling it with more fire and making it wrong.
Or you're making yourself wrong for being
Absolutely.
triggered, or you're making yourself wrong for, I mean, there's so many different things, right? So, I was talking to someone yesterday, one of our clients yesterday. We were having this great conversation. And one of the things, and the ego was just in such self-judgment. I mean, oh my God, so much self-judgment. And I could see, have you noticed too that when you're in your ego, you try really hard to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the problem is you're fueling the ego there. The more you try to fix it, or I got to be high vibe, or whatever it is that you try to do, what happens is you're basically energizing the same problem. It requires a beingness shift. And if you're lucky enough to have someone in your life that says, listen, if your ego is going nuts, you must be on the verge of a really big shift. Because if the ego is going nuts, it's coming up to be seen and heard. Imagine if the thing that is the trigger got healed. So we could use tools with other people, right? Which is I hear you, which is what Jeannie said. Absolutely use it with your kids, use it with your parents, use it with everybody. I hear you. I get what you're saying. Or I so understand how you could feel that way. Don't say it by rote and yeah. Yes, Lynn?
Or it could be, you know what? I never considered that before.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So so then what happens is that we've got these tools to be able to deal with someone else's ego, but ultimately, because you know me, I'm always about the embodiment. It really does require working through when a trigger repeats, when you're reactive to a certain thing all the time, when certain things anger you all the time, when certain things make your eye twitch and it happens daily or weekly or whatever. That is something that's coming up to be looked at. Either, we used to teach get out of your own way. We do the quantum leap when you're working with, but certainly I do that when I'm working one-on-one and when Jeannie's working one-on-one with people. But sometimes it actually requires therapy because it's so ingrained from childhood or from another life that it doesn't matter how much you use tools. It doesn't go away. That's how you know it's in the 7% of things that actually need addressing. And there's 93% of things that sometimes just by hearing it out, like what Jeannie said, just by hearing it and saying, I totally understand why you could feel that way, or what Adam said, it's like, I never considered that. Just by hearing it out, it goes away permanently. But if you have to keep saying that over and over and over again to someone, that means that there's something for them to look at. Or if someone has to keep saying that over and over again to you, that's something to really find someone who doesn't have that trigger, who is either a therapist or a coach, to actually work through that, to actually build a bridge.
And then the question becomes, how do you deal with your own ego?
Well, yeah. Well, how do you deal with your own ego?
I mean,
Again, it requires outside
perspective.
perspective, because from within the way you think, you know what I mean, or I think, or anyone thinks, you're gonna get the same old, same old.
Sure, sure. Yet, some things my ego says I don't want to share with anybody because they're just so outlandish or gruesome, or that negative self-talk. And the best thing I ever learned from Jeannie was like, just make it right. Adam, you suck. You know what? No. In reality, because then there's nothing for the ego to push up against, and all of a sudden that just disappears.
Right.
So that's a powerful tool as well.
That is a powerful tool. And to your point, Adam, one of the greatest things is if you're constantly in self-judgment and you think it's too much for someone else to hear, generally, those are the very things that you want someone else to hear, because then you'll never have it again. I see that happen in flight school all the time, Jeannie. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
When people will say, I've never said this before, and it's like, I'm so afraid and I'm so ashamed to say this, and I can't believe that I think this. And then they'll say it, and a room full of people hears it that just won't judge. And all of a sudden, because they said, I've got goosebumps just talking about it, because they said it to complete strangers in a room who completely had compassion and total neutrality, including, we set the space for that. That's not something that happens by mistake. Let's just be clear. But all of a sudden, it's like such a relief. Mostly there are deep, deep tears. And I don't care what it is that one has inside, including what Adam's talking about. There is nothing that when love hears it, when real love hears it, that it can't be transmuted. There's nothing, because everything, the fabric of existence is love. And until you let love transmute that thing that you feel the deepest shame about, it'll keep coming up, and the people around you will keep having to manage you. Right?
So I have a question for you.
Okay, go.
So if you're watching, if you see all the incongruencies of the world, and you see, people on TV, you see, other people out there not treating others right. It's like, and it's like a kind of like a global thing, and it affects so many hundreds and of thousands of people. How do you find peace with that? Knowing, it could be your trigger, that it's just like, oh, there it is. I'm carrying a humanity, and my ego wants to be right, that everything is wrong. So when you feel so much of that,
yes.
So how do you make peace with that? Of knowing that you can't change the egos of others because it's hurting so many people.
I don't make peace with it. I literally take the energy of the contrast and I channel that energy to creating a mini world, a fractal of the world that I want to see, so that the truth of how we can be exists in humanity, and it spreads by the people who are part of it, like our community. What? Our Agents of Awakening community is that. It literally is what we created in response to what's happening in the world, and a place to be able to co-create and see each other from a place of neutrality and sing and dance and play in a way that actually has us remember that it's possible. It's possible. All of it is possible. Everything you imagine for humanity is possible. And it's a place to be able to get new insights and have other inputs from other perspectives that will change your world. So come and play. It's Adam will put up the QR code and you can click on that. You just just have your camera and just, you know how to do QR codes by now. And off we go. So, you guys, in summary, in a quick summary, it is not time to engage the collective ego that Jeannie was talking about. It is time to actually take the energy of the contrast and the polarity and ask yourself, what's the greatest thing I can do with the skills I already have that would make the biggest difference? Have me waking up inspired and going to bed knowing I did what I came to the planet for. What's your answer to that question? How can you channel the energy of the frustration or the sadness you sometimes feel about all the things? How can you channel that energy? Because emotion is just all energy. How can we channel that energy in a new direction? And so I challenge you to answer that question. Do you have any final words, Jeannie? I don't mean final words like you're going to die. I mean like final words.
Oh my God. I'm just going to agree. That's exactly how I feel. It's just being able to be so vigilant for your, for your vibration, being a champion for your frequency. What does that look like to be able to be curious on the, on what's on the other side of all this contrast, and, leading with love. That's all that matters.
So we leave you with this question today. How can you let love win no matter what? Who do you have to become, and how are you going to become it? And so blessed and juiced that you guys are here today. Here's to your thriving life. We salute you. We salute you for being courageous badasses. All right. And thank you to Mr. Adam Lamb. Adam Lamb, any final words since you were definitely a part of today?
Just thanks for letting me be part of today.
Oh, man.
You're so happy to be nominated.
So happy to be thank you to my parents and to all the little people. So all right, you guys,